Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to part one of my video on the DBQ process. And well, as y'all know, this year's DBQ is going to be modified to include only five only five documents. So this is going to be a series of videos, and then we're going to have a couple of Zoom meetings later on to kind of go through that. To tell you what all we're going to do. So let's kind of go ahead and skip ahead. You can see my screen. This is, like I said, part one. And today I want to focus mostly on reading, how to actively read documents and things like that. So again, this DBQ is only going to be 45 minutes long. And well, at least that's all you have. And then you have a 5-minute upload time when you upload everything to the computer hosting platform on that. And then that will take care of the AP World History exam for 2020. So I want to focus on step one, read and understand the question. And notice there's 3 exclamation points there. Read the prompt. Read the prompt. Read the prompt. I'm going to look at a couple of these here. You have to be able to read and understand the question, okay? So here is what you will look for in the prompt. See what I'm doing right here. Here's what you look for. Number one, what is the historical thinking skill embedded in the question? Now, for historical thinking skill, let's go over to the left side of your screen. The 3 C's. You have to develop historical thinking skills that revolve around comparing, okay? And remember what I told you in class a long time ago. Comparing also means contrasting, even though that's not on here. In a way, you could say that's the 4th C, but comparing is also contrasting, okay? Causation, talking about why something happened, and then something called CCOT, which means change and continuity over time. In other words, what has changed and what has stayed the same. So we now go to the different categories. Okay, that's question 2, categories. The categories, and we have themes here. It's pieces, P-I-E-C-E-S, and that stands for political, okay, intellectual, economic, cultural, environmental, and social, okay? These are the different categories, and there are obviously more, okay? So this is talking about, well, what categories are we dealing with here? Is this politically? Is this economically? Is it culture? Well, what exactly is this asking? The time period. Folks, the time period is going to be mentioned in the prompt, or at least in the historical background, okay? And then lastly, you can see here at the bottom, it says, what region? Study your AP regions. What region of the world are we talking about? It would be good to study your regions, even though you're going to have all the information laid out around you as you are conducting this DBQ. It would be good to have a working knowledge of that, because remember, you're going to have to read this fairly quickly. So here's a practice prompt here I want to look at. Evaluate the extent to which the progressive movement fostered political change in the U.S. from 1890 to 1920. The example that we've chosen here is one from U.S. history. So let's take a look here. I want to break down, because this is some of the same wording. I think this helps. So we skip ahead, and I want to highlight a couple of things. Which historical thinking skill is this? Evaluate the extent to which the progressive movement fostered political change in the U.S. Okay. So historical thinking skill, if I were to go back to this screen here, are we looking at comparing and contrasting, causation, or change and continuity over time? We are looking at change and continuity over time, okay? Do you see the categories here? I see a P, I see political. And do you see the years, 1890 to 1920, okay? So there's the categories, political change, extent to which, and there's the years, 1890 to 1920, okay? So now what about the region? Well, the region is right here. We all know our regions in AP World. There they are right here at the bottom. And of course, it's asking for the United States, okay? And that's here in North America, all right? Step two, now you understand the difference between historical thinking skill, all right? And you know what the different categories are, and you know the time period and region. Once you establish that, now it's time to roll up your sleeves and get to work. Step two, read the documents quickly. And I mean quickly because time is of the essence here. All right. Read them quickly. Remember, for this modified DBQ, you're going to have 5, not 7. You will be having 5. Okay. My recommendation, and the recommendation of Steve Heimler and all the other experts, is to spend no more than 10 minutes reading the documents total. 10 minutes. That means each document is going to be about 2 minutes. So you're going to have to do this quickly. All right. But don't worry, fear not, you can do it. All right. Here are a couple of things you need to do. This is your document work. This is now about actively reading a primary source or a secondary source, depending on what it is. Question 1, what is the source of this document? So for this question, what is the source of the document? You're going to have to ask, what is the point of view? Establish the point of view. And what we're looking at is the author, right? Look at the source, see what the point of view is. If it's talking about, if it's talking about imperialism against a certain group of people, well, is the point of view from the imperialist or the imperialized, right? That's very, very important, okay? Second thing, for each document, you have to, in a pretty quick amount of time, summarize the main idea. Here's a good rule of thumb, and I've written it for you right here in red, that if you only had this one document, how would it answer the question? That is the number one quickest way to determine whether or not you have a good summary of the main idea, okay? And then lastly, and this one here is going to take practice. We'll be doing this in our Zoom meetings as we get through. We have to group our documents into 2 groups. Y'all have it easy because if this were a normal test, we'd be looking at 3, maybe even 4 groups, depending on the content, because we would have more documents to work with. It's not the case this year. So 2 groups are going to be just fine. Well, Mr. Jones, what are groups? Well, groups are created out of pieces, P-I-E-C-E-S. Again, the grouping, we've got to let the documents kind of decide that one, all right? So here's a document I have found, and I am going to get this to you guys in some way, shape, or form that I think will work very well. It is the 2020 at-home DBQ planning sheet. And so for each document, you can actually make notes, and you can see what about the thesis. So it's got some reminders for the rubric. I'm going to go over the rubric in a different video. But this will help you organize your DBQ, and I think it's very well. And I really like the way he did this. I didn't create this document. This came from Matt Willett, another AP teacher from somewhere else. So I'm going to get this to you guys because I think this is going to be a very, very helpful tool. So the official 2020 DBQ rubric is right here, but you can find that on your AP Classroom account. All you got to do is Google it. Actually, you probably don't even have to log in. You can just Google it, and you can find exactly what they are going to be grading the DBQ on. So let me get to something different here, because I want to kind of skip ahead because we're going to look at thesis development a little bit later. Let me pause real quick. Let me pause this share here. Because we are going to go over thesis writing much, much later. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. So I just can't see to find that. But let me get to it. One of the sample questions here. I'll find it in just a second. Yeah, so this is one right here that they have been, this is from 2018. Let me get my share screen back on for you just so you can see this right here. Yeah, so what you're looking at right here is the 2018, 2019, no, okay, this is last year's DBQ. So some of your people that may have taken this know this one here. Now, I know that we're under a different curriculum and I know we're under different tests, but I want you to take a look at what documents look like. You can see this one right here, document 1, for example. Let me see if I can find the, okay, so this is the DBQ right here. Normally, if this is, like I said, this is last year, so this would be modified this year. But the question is, it's simply right here. You see it right there? Evaluate the extent to which the Portuguese transformed maritime trade in the Indian Ocean in the 16th century. So our historical thinking skill, I see the word transformed, which means something changed over time, okay? We see when it is, 16th century, that would be the 1500s. And we're looking at Portuguese trade in the Indian Ocean as our region. And specifically, how does this involve the Portuguese? Now, sometimes questions will give you a short historical background. They didn't do that here. They just gave you a map, which I think is going to be very, very helpful. But if you think about it, that is historical evidence. A map is historical evidence. So document 1, you can take a look here. The first thing it says is the source, okay? So this is obviously a primary source because this is advice given in 1500 by the Muslim merchants of Calicut to the Hindu rule of, there's a lot of stuff to read here. Anyway, I'm looking at it right here. Just the writing you can tell this is a primary source. Your job here is to figure out what the point of view is of the source, okay? Like I said earlier. Document 2, here's another one. This is another primary source. But I want to show you, I'm not going to pause on any of the sources because, like I said, this is just a very beginning video on how to do the DBQ. Look at document 7. Document 7 is a, document 7 is a box. Yeah, document 7 is a box. And it is, it's an inlaid box made in Gujarat, India for export to Portugal. And that's all it says. That's it. And that shows your documents for question 1. That's all you have to go on is these documents and this one prompt. So I will be giving y'all some things on AP Classroom for you to start looking at. So go ahead and start practicing. Reading them. We will worry about thesis development and we'll go over the rubric in our next video. Have a good day.